Do you remember when the NBA just up and decided to change their playoff format in the middle of the season during the All-Star break? Well, yes, that happened. Is the SEC going to have to do that with their tiebreaker? They're divisionless. There's 16 teams. What in the world are they going to do if 1 and 2 have the same record, both overall and in the SEC? Who plays in Atlanta? Caleb, your thoughts and what you're hearing on what might happen to something that very well could happen.
Let me say up front, this setup is already utterly stupid, because a 16-team conference with no divisions and an 8-game schedule is going to have wildly different schedules for teams. So you're going to have the top 2 with the best record, and you can't take schedule strength into account? I mean, that's insane. It was borderline criminal back in the old days when you had 12 teams and you one team could play the 3 toughest teams from the West and the other team could play the 3 worst teams from the West. Remember that, Dave? And that could get them into Atlanta. I think that's why Tennessee won the East in 2007, by the way. They had a much easier West schedule than Georgia or Florida did that year. And that happened so often. This takes it to another level. But then there's the other part where inevitably there's going to be teams with the same record. And if there's going to be teams with the same record, there's a strong likelihood number 2 and number 3 have the same record, or number 2, number 3, number 4, or number 2, number 3, or number 4 or 5. Or how about just 1 through 5 have the same record? They have no tiebreaker planned at all. This isn't just your old SEC East where Tennessee, Florida, Georgia were a 3-way tie. That was a freak situation, right, Dave? That almost never happens.
Yes.
It's not like that. It's much more common for teams to have the same record, 2, 3, and 4, 5. There's a chance that 2 and 3 have the same record, didn't play each other. How do you determine who's going to Atlanta?
It's fair. Portions of the program brought to you by Boundless Moving. From their 2-hour minimum to a turnkey operations, they have you covered. They moved me because they do so right in East Tennessee. They can do so in Charlotte as well. Just Google Boundless Moving. Tell them Off the Hook Sports sent you. They're a proud supporter of the program. Boundless Moving. Tell them Off the Hook Sports sent you. We greatly appreciate that. Support our sponsors. That's why we are here. What are the chances that we'll get some sort of set of criteria for a tiebreaker before the season? Or do you really think the SEC is just going to go into the season with their fingers crossed, hoping they don't have a tie?
My prediction right now is they're going to go in the season with their fingers crossed, hoping they don't have a tie. We'll know. I can make a definitive statement on that in probably a week. Aren't the spring meetings in Destin in a week?
The week of Memorial Day, yes, and we will have some reports from Destin, which we're looking forward to.
Yes. If they don't set it up in the spring meeting, they're not going to set it up. So that means they're going to go in the season guns blazing, just hoping that there's a tie somewhere, or that there's not a tie. And if it is, they'll address it. By the way, they changed it for the Tennessee, Florida, Georgia situation in 2003 when it was a 3-way tie. Initially, it was just a vote by the voters, the SEC voters, administrators would vote over who the best team is. And in the middle of the year, they changed it to who the highest ranked team in the BCS is. Tennessee fans and Florida fans were unhappy, but there was no real way to determine the winner. I thought the BCS was the most effective way to determine the winner. I mean, sorry, Tennessee fans, but I think they got it right picking Georgia because the BCS was the most effective way in 2003.
Here's what makes this even more difficult. If you want to take this to a second level, if they have the same SEC record, why this is so difficult is they used to talk about the tiebreaker in terms of play within the division. So Tennessee over Georgia or vice versa or Florida or whatever because of play within division. So there used to be a very set way of finding a team that would play for the SEC championship over the other. I don't know without divisions how you even start along those lines. Caleb, that's my concern. So I don't think they'll get it done during SEC spring meetings. Do you?
No. Now, the way they'll do this is they might go with the highest ranked team in the college football playoff, or they might go by schedule strength. It's one of those two ways is probably how they'll do it. honestly, and here's where I come into play, and here's where I get on my soapbox about the college football playoff and devaluing the SEC title game. If I'm number 2 and another team's number 3, and we have the same record and we didn't play each other, I hope I'm the one left out of the SEC title game. I want that rest, man. I want that rest for the college football playoff. I'm already going to be highly ranked. And by the way, there's a strong possibility, Dave. This is crazy. The SEC has a tiebreaker. What if not just 2 and 3? What if 1, 2, and 3 all have the same record? Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Theoretically, 3 teams in the SEC can go undefeated. Okay,
or 2 and 3. It doesn't have to be 1 and 2.
Right. No, I know. For my purposes, I'm going to say all 3.
Okay.
Because I want you to hear me out real quick. 1, 2, and 3 are all undefeated.
Well, that can't happen.
Yeah. 3 SEC teams can go undefeated. That's how ridiculous this setup is.
Okay, well, that's not going to happen. Let's say 3-1 loss.
Wait, no, just entertain me on this. 3-1 loss teams, 1, 2, 3, whatever. Okay, fine. 3-1 loss teams. They're 1, 2, and 3. What if the number 3 team that is left out due to the SEC tiebreaker is the highest ranked SEC team, while is the highest ranked SEC team in the college football playoff? At which point they get to skip the SEC title game and they would get the first round bye.
They're not going to let that happen.
What if it happened? How great, how hilarious would that be? Come on. I want chaos, baby. I want chaos. I want them to be forced to fix this.
No, whoever wins the SEC is going to be their top seed. You would agree with that.
Whoever wins them is going to be the top seed.
Oh, well, no, I see. I don't know what they're going to do. To be quite frank with you, Don Self at State Farm knows what he's going to do when you have a claim. He's going to take care of it because customer service still matters. For 40 years, Don Self has been building his business on taking care of his customers in the greater Chattanooga area. Call 423-396-2126, 423-396-2126. Go to donself.net, donself.net. Right below, you can take care of you in the Chattanooga area or get you directed to the correct State Farm agent. That's donself.net. I really don't begin to have a direction other than head-to-head, of course, other than record in the SEC, of course, other than record overall. I would think that would be some sort of tiebreaker, but that's the most unfair tiebreaker of them all because you could be better non-conference because you played Chattanooga instead of a high-profile or Power 5 team. So it's not fair to go by overall record. That really has no indication about how good you are in the SEC.
Yeah, but I don't think conference record is a good indication. I mean, when one team played Vanderbilt, the other team may have played Alabama.
Yeah, Travis says get rid of the championship game. I don't know if he's serious or not, but I wouldn't surprise me if it went down to that. I would hate to see that, though, Caleb. I've talked about it before. I think winning the SEC championship means something. You don't. I understand by comparison, but I think it means a lot. And I think to say you're a champion, even if you somehow didn't make the college football playoff, would still be a season to look back and celebrate on 25 years from now.
The championship, there's no way you're not making the playoff if you don't win the conference title.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
The only way that could happen is if they went back to divisions, right? Kind of the LSU trick, how they almost slipped in with 3.
Yeah, I guess so. But they, like, again, you would have to, the SEC champion is going to get an automatic bid. Again, this is the top 4, the top 5 conference champions are going every year. So when is the SEC champion not going to be one of the top 5 conference champions? That's never in human history going to happen. So, you know, you're never going to see less than 3 teams from the SEC in the college football playoff. There will always be at least 3 teams in the 12-team playoff. And I think most of the time it's going to be 4, actually. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to incorporate the championship games into the playoff. I think that's going to be the future move. So like when the SEC and Big Ten get so big, I think like the first weekend of the college football playoff will be basically those conference championship games. Does that make sense? Kind of something like that. I think they'll kind of make it part of the playoff.
Yep. I can see that.